Chapter 7. I could not sleep without his presence. I should be meditating. I should be reviewing the route, writing to my father, thinking about the 6 remaining sins and the logistics of getting to them without anyone dying, which is proving to be a higher bar than anticipated. I should be doing anything other than lying in the dark, thinking about the fact that through the wall of this guest room, which is architecturally too thin, and I will be having words with someone about this eventually, I can smell him. Not strongly, just a thread of it. Enough that my body, which has been making decisions about this man without consulting me since the night he arrived, has decided this constitutes a full situation requiring its complete attention. I sat up. "Fuck," I said to the dark. The dark said nothing. The dark, at least, is professional. The problem is not that I want him, I want things. I wanted a particular sword for 4 years once, and then I got it, and the wanting stopped, which is how wanting is supposed to go. The problem is that this feels less like wanting and more like, well, I have tried several words. None of them are the right size. The closest I have gotten is, it feels like something that was already true before I knew about it. Which is not a sentence, which is not language, which is the problem. I have been not saying it for 6 weeks. I am apparently going to be awake not saying it for several more hours. Fine. The first time I saw him, he was unconscious in a circle of dust. The courtyard smelled of ozone and scorched stone and Arthur's incense and 200 people in their best clothes pretending not to sweat. Then he landed, and underneath all of it, arriving before the man himself had fully arrived, was the cleanest thing I had smelled in 23 years. I do not have a word for it. Rain is close. Rain on something that has been too hot for too long is closer. The thing in my chest that had been screaming quietly for the better part of a year, the thing my mother and I do not discuss in daylight hours, stopped screaming. Just stopped. For the first time in months, I breathed in without bracing for it. I did not move. I did not change my expression. I was professionally a prince. Internally I was, cataloging his face, which I am going to describe as fine, in the same way that a sunset is fine, in the same way that anything which briefly makes you forget you have a kingdom to run is technically fine. Cataloging his clothes, which were alien and included a lab coat of all the garments the universe could have dressed him in, it chose a lab coat. Cataloging the ring on my finger, which had been cold and dormant since I was 17, and had just, quietly, gone warm. And cataloging the fact that whatever had been screaming in my chest was now sitting still like a dog that has spotted something and is not sure yet how to approach it. Then he opened his eyes, and I said, in front of the entire court of Bellestia and 3 foreign ambassadors and my own mother, "That's the hero." What I had been about to say before I edited it was, "He looks like an angel." He was small. He was bewildered. He had the expression of a man who had been in the middle of something and had not been informed he would no longer be in the middle of it, and who had thoughts about this. He was going to fall. His knees shifted wrong. His weight went to the wrong foot. The color had not come back to his face yet. My body had already decided. I caught him. He landed in my arms, and it felt, I am going to write this once, and I am not going to revisit it. It felt like the right answer to a question I had not known I was asking. Not exciting, not good exactly. Just correct, like a number that finally balances. I am a prince. I have been trained since I could stand to identify irrational feelings and discharge them. I identified this one. I could not discharge it. It sat in my arms along with him, and it did not move, and it did not care what I thought about it being there. "Are you all right?" I asked, because it was the appropriate thing to ask, because I had been raised to ask it, because every other sentence I briefly considered would have required a conversation I was not ready to have with a man who was barely conscious. I'm all right," he started, and then he passed out in my arms. What I said to the nearest knight, "Take him to the summer rooms." What I was thinking while the transfer happened, "Do not drop him. Do not drop him. Do not drop him. Do not drop him in front of the ambassadors, specifically not in front of the ambassador from Veyron, who already thinks we are provincial." What I thought once he had been carried away, and the smell of him was fading down the corridor. My chest, which had stopped hurting for the first time in a year, was already starting again. I had been a prince for 23 years. I had been in trouble, I now understood, for 90 seconds. I was not cursed. I know there is a rumor. There is apparently a very detailed rumor involving a curse in my 16th birthday, which I would like to formally deny. The truth is simpler and stranger. I was born with it. The first time that I remember the darkness manifested where another person could see it, I was 6 years old. My mother was brushing my hair. Something small went wrong. A minor disappointment I cannot even remember now, and a thin black vein of it crawled up my arm like a plant deciding whether to flower. My mother did not flinch. My mother has never flinched at anything. She once broke her hand on a marble pillar during a trade dispute and finished her sentence before she acknowledged the break. She set down the brush. She put her hand over mine and pressed down, hard and steady. She said quietly, "Not today, my love. Today we keep it in." It went back in. We did not speak of it. I grew up. I presented Alpha at 15, late, my mother told me privately, which I understand now she meant as kindness. These two things stacked the way that flammable things stack. Both got worse each year. I learned to edit myself so continuously that I stopped being certain which version of me was the real one. I kept the darkness still. It was effortful. I had been tired for a long time. It got harder last year. I told myself it was the rise of the demon lord, and that the air in the kingdom felt thick with something I couldn't name. I knew that my own weather would follow. I said this calmly and frequently, like a man washing dishes he has washed before. Sometimes I almost believed it. Sometimes I dreamt of something looking at the world through my eyes that was not me. Sometimes the darkness moved without permission in small ways, and when I caught it and pushed it back, it went almost willingly. Too willingly, like something that had been somewhere and was returning, not retreating. My mother caught me staring at a mirror too long once. She did not ask what I had seen. She took my hand and said, "Not today, my love. We keep it in." I had been keeping it in for 17 years. I was getting tired. And then the sky opened in my courtyard, and a boy fell out of it, and the thing in my chest went quiet for the first time since I had been old enough to notice it was there. And I was cruel to him. That is the part I am still angry about. Not the cruelty which was planned. The reason. I knew what he was to me before he opened his eyes. I knew it the way you know the weather. And I knew, immediately, that telling him would be a cage he had not agreed to enter. He was a student. He had a deadline. He had a mother in another world who was going to be, Shushu told me later with characteristic timing, so confused. He had not signed up to be anyone's answer, least of all mine. So I made myself cruel. I called him a coward in front of everybody, and then he would repeat it. I watched him draw himself up in his ridiculous lab coat and look at me with the specific dignity of a person who's been underestimated their whole life and is entirely finished with it. And I made it worse on purpose. The plan was that he leaves, I find someone else. The thing in my chest goes back to screaming, which is what I deserve. The plan lasted 90 seconds. Then he kicked me in the testicles. I deserved this. Cosmically, specifically, completely. I have never deserved anything more in my life. I went down, and on the way down my body caught his ankle because apparently going down was acceptable but losing contact was not, which is information about myself that I received in real time and have not finished processing. My ring came off. It rolled. The court forgot how to breathe. My mother was wheezing somewhere behind me. And this boy, this jet-lagged, furious, dignified boy from another world, bent down and picked it up. Because he had been raised right. Because he was, as I was about to discover over the next increasingly inconvenient weeks, just like that. He handed me back my ring. Our hands touched. The moonlight came down like it had been holding its breath. The rings reformed. My mother made a sound that I am choosing not to document for posterity. The one quality I had been trying to protect him from was the exact quality that bound him to me. He had been polite. He had been worried about a tripping hazard. I have been punished for many things. This was the most inventive. Now I want to tell you about the library. Third on my personal list of embarrassments. Behind the kick and the ring, ahead of the afternoon, my mother asked a foreign delegation whether I had been eating enough fiber. I had walked toward the east wing at a princely pace, which is to say quickly, because I had received 3 separate corridor reports in 20 minutes, that the summoned hero had walked into the sealing ritual and asked for vinegar, and each report made me walk slightly faster. I arrived to find foam. I will not describe the foam. What I will describe is the boy standing in the center of it with chalk on his hands, explaining what he calls oxidation chemistry to 9 of the most insufferable theoretical mages in the kingdom. Patiently. With that small tilt of his head he does when he is checking whether the other person is following. The small pause that says, "I believe you can get there." Not one of those 9 men deserved that pause. I had watched those 9 men spend 40 minutes deciding which direction to stand during a minor ritual. They did not deserve to be explained to so carefully. They did not deserve him. Ren did not know this. Ren, I was learning, assumed by default that people were worth his time until they proved otherwise. I found this baffling. I found it baffling, and also I could not look away, and my ring was warm, and I was, professionally, absolutely fine. Then Bass walked in. I know Bass. I know Bass from a secret investigation I was secretly conducting. I had planned to address Bass in 3 to 6 weeks under conditions I selected. Bass looked at the foam. Bass looked at Ren. And then Bass, who had operated across 4 countries and held expression through things that would have broken most people, smiled. Not the professional smile. The other one. The involuntary one. The kind that happens in all of us when we see something we did not know we had been looking for. I want to describe my mental state in the next 11 seconds because it is, on review, instructive. I noted the smile. I noted that Ren had not noticed it because Ren does not notice this kind of thing about himself. Ever. And this was somehow worse. I noted that I had begun, without conscious decision, to mark the exits. Then the distance from my hand to my sword. Then Bass's throat. Then I noted that this was not a normal sequence of items to be annexed in a library during a sealing ritual, and that a more measured man, a man with better hobbies, a man who had been issued a different brain at birth, would not be doing it. I was doing it anyway. I caught myself. I am a professional. I am a prince. I do not in fact threat assess my own intelligence operatives during oxidation lectures. I stopped marking Bass. I unfolded my arms. I composed my face into the face of a man who had merely come to observe a chemistry demonstration and was now ready to depart. I left at a princely pace, by which I mean quickly, by which I mean I took the stairs 2 at a time in a stretch of corridor I was reasonably certain had no eyes on it. I examined Y for 6 hours. Through a full meeting with my father, I retain no memory. The examination is ongoing. I have accepted that it will not conclude in my lifetime. 3 weeks later. 4. My father sent the scroll. Edenmere. Sloth. My face did not change. My face did not change in front of the knight who delivered it, or in front of Ren when I found him in the garden that morning, standing very still and looking at his hands as if they had done something without asking him. My face changed in private, in my study, at 3 in the morning, looking at the tin of moon-petal tablets I had been saving for a crisis. I thought, this is a crisis. I drafted a note. The first draft was embarrassing. The second was worse. By the 4th it said, Ren, take these every 4 hours. Love, L, fine, functional. By the 5th it had become, Ren, I have ridden this road in my head 3 times this week. I know where it gets bad. Your body will thank me, even if you do not. Your knight, L. By the 6th draft, the note had gotten away from me entirely and said things I am not going to transcribe here because this journal might someday be found and I have a reputation. I burned the 6th. I burned all of them. I put the tin in my pocket and used my working knowledge of his packing schedule. I have a working knowledge of his packing schedule. I have not examined how this happened. It is in a very long queue. I slipped the tin into his travel bag while he was not in the room. No notes. He never saw me do it. I stood at the south gate facing the road and pretended I did not feel it when his window opened behind me. Pretended the ring did not go warm the way it goes warm now, always when he is close. Pretended my shoulders did not settle. Then a little later, my mother screamed, Ren, Ren, my dear, the future bearer of my twin grandchildren. At the full volume of a woman who had decided this was a moment for the entire courtyard, and I walked faster. Internally, I was excited. I was naming one of them, after her. Not by choice. By some involuntary muscle I did not know I had. I was naming the other after Ren's mother. I have never met Ren's mother. I was doing it anyway. I want that on record. She deserves that for making my Ren. Now I want to tell you about the knee. Down on one knee, palms flat on the ground, Sloth whispered, "Rest, rest. You have been fighting for so long. Just rest." The horror was that he was not wrong. I had been tired for a long time, not tired from the road. The other kind. The kind that lives behind your sternum and has been there long enough you forget it is not just what existing feels like. Sloth was offering, in the kindest voice, a nap. For one full second I wanted to take it. Then the ring went warm. Not dramatically, just warm. Like, I am going to say it like a hand, and I am not going to take it back. Like a hand. And the screaming space in my chest went quiet again. I lifted my head, found him across the square, sharp-eyed, frightened, but still thinking, still solving, looking at me the way you look at something you care about that is going wrong. He cared what happened next. 1 second of eye contact. 1. I looked away, because Ren is the cleverest person I have met in my life, and 1 more second would have been enough. He would have read it. He reads everything, and I was not ready to be read. So I looked away, and I stood up. Not because I am stubborn, though I am. Not because I am disciplined, though I am that too. I stood up because the warmth had made the exhaustion survivable for exactly 1 heartbeat, which was enough. I stood up because of him. I have not told him this. I will. Eventually. But tonight is not eventually. I want to talk about what happened next. I do not particularly want to talk about it. I am going to talk about it because if I do not write it down somewhere, I am going to keep thinking about it. And I have already been thinking about it for 40 minutes tonight, which is 40 minutes I have not spent meditating. A crater opened in the road 6 feet from where I was kneeling. Out of the crater, slowly, came a man. I want you to understand my mental state at this point. I had been on one knee in front of an ancient sin for several minutes. I had locked eyes with Ren for 1 second, broken the eye contact because I am a coward, and stood up on a single heartbeat of borrowed strength. I was not at my best. And then a crater opened in the road, and out of it came a man, with red and white streaks in his hair, brushing dust off his shoulder, yawning. I will be precise about what happened in my chest in the next 4 seconds. The thing that had gone quiet did not go quiet anymore. It went a different quiet, a waiting quiet. The kind of quiet a room goes when somebody who is not invited has walked in. Ren said his name, once, quietly. The way you say a name you have been carrying with you. Law. The man in the crater looked at Ren and smiled. A specific smile, not the polite kind. The kind that comes from years of shared bad decisions and worse breakfasts. He said, "Hey, Ren." Like that. Hey, Ren. As if they had seen each other yesterday. As if a crater between worlds was nothing. I observed the following, professionally. He was attractive. I am not going to describe the specific way in which he was attractive because doing so would require me to admit to having looked. I had looked. Twice. The second look was for confirmation. He was attractive in the way that, if you had been raised the way I was raised, you would describe as a problem. Lean. Toned in a way you only noticed when he moved, and then you did. And then you were annoyed. He was not from here. The hair, the clothing, the posture of a man with no concept of how badly the situation was going. From Ren's world. He had brushed the dust off his shoulder before greeting anyone. With his hand. Casually. Like he had time. What I did instead, internally, in the 4 seconds between his arrival and his first full sentence was, I noted his proximity to Ren. I noted the angle of his smile. I noted that Ren had a him-shaped quantity of warm thought stored about this person, which I was learning about by being knocked into a different category of feeling that I am not going to label here. I was fine. Professionally, I was fine. Lucas, Bass said somewhere to my left. You are growling. I was not growling. I was breathing, I said. I was breathing carefully and quietly through my nose. If something in the breathing had a slight tone to it, that was incidental and did not concern Bass, and Bass should have been minding the perimeter rather than auditing my respiration during an active engagement. You are, though, Bass said. I stopped breathing through my nose. The craterman, Law, said something useful. He yawned at Sloth. He absorbed the drain attack and asked sleepily whether that was the worst we had. He was irritatingly effective. He did look at me once, the brief assessing glance of someone updating their information against the in-person version, and the small, barely visible flicker of someone who was interested in the in-person version. I did not respond. I am capable of restraint. I just do not, frankly, feel like exercising it about Law specifically. The exercise queue is full. We won the fight. Eventually, with Law's help. I am acknowledging Law's help. The contribution is in the record. I have not yet decided whether I like him. This is a lie. I have decided. I have decided several times. Each decision contradicts the previous one and lasts approximately 3 minutes before being overturned. Currently, the decision is, he is a useful ally and a good friend to Ren, and I should be grateful, and also if he calls Ren by a nickname one more time within my hearing range, I am going to need to take a long walk in a different direction. I want it noted that I am aware of how I sound. I want it noted that I am still writing this down anyway. I left my room. The house was quiet. Kilo was snoring somewhere in a pile of blankets, which is the most compositionally surprising sentence I have ever thought about the members of a royal expedition. Atlas was snoring 2 doors down in a different and lower register. I walked past both without stopping. I walked to the hallway that ended at his door. I stood there. I had said goodnight to him in this same hallway hours ago. Sleep, I had said. Yeah, he had said. I had walked away from him. I had been doing that for 6 weeks. I was running out of directions. I have stood outside his door every night since he arrived at the palace. Yes, this was not the first time. Every night, no exceptions, including the 2 nights I had a fever, and including the 1 night I had a genuine scheduling conflict, for which I rescheduled the conflict, completed it, and then came back here anyway. Because the thing in my chest is quieter here than anywhere else I go, and quiet is not nothing. He does not know this. He sleeps well. I have made a point of it. What exactly I am guarding against when I stand here I have not examined, because examining it would require naming it, and naming it would require, well, I am only allowing myself 1 admission per journal entry. I have already used it. The darkness did not like being out here. It did not like him, specifically, in the manner of something that has recognized a natural enemy and is not handling this gracefully. It did not like that it did not like him, because even the dislike felt like an acknowledgement, and acknowledgement was apparently also not acceptable. It was learning it did not have a vote in this. It was sulking. It had been sulking for 6 weeks. I had been accommodating this darkness since I was 6 years old, and it could, for once, accommodate me. I raised my hand. Put it down. I raised it again in the shape of a knock I was not going to make. Put it down again. I pressed my palm flat against the door instead, just flat against the wood, and I said to no one who would hear it, "Stay asleep, hero. I'm not done being yours in secret yet." I turned to walk away. Something moved in my chest that was not the darkness. I need to be precise about this because precision is the only thing I have left tonight. The darkness I know. I have known it since I was 6. It has a shape, a weight, a mood. Tonight its mood is sulk. This was not that. This was under the darkness behind it, older than it, something that had been in my dreams since I was 14 years old. Something I had glimpsed once in a mirror and chosen not to look at directly, then or ever. I had always told myself it was the darkness folding in on itself, a symptom, not a second thing. Tonight I admitted to a journal only I will ever read that it was not that. It was something watching through a window I had not known was there. It had noticed me standing in this hallway, my hand against the door, the ring warm, the chest quiet. For once, something had noticed me being in. I am going to write the word, in love. It had noticed me being in love. That is a problem. I have had many problems. This is the first one I am refusing to regret. The communication stone in my pocket went warm. I pulled it out. My mother's face appeared in it, hair loose, robe on backwards, sleep mask on her forehead, 1 earring still in. The portrait of a woman who woke suddenly and did not pause to fix a single thing before responding. "Yo-ho-ho-ho," she said at full volume. at 3 in the morning, in the hallway outside the door of the man I was trying very hard not to wake. I closed my eyes. Mother. Darling. Mother. Why is your side of the bond flaring, my love? Are you dying? Are you in love? Please say both. Mother, please. Are you outside someone's door right now? You have the door face, Lucas. You only make that face when you are standing outside someone's door and that someone's name starts with R and ends with N. Mother, I have been so patient. My hair has stopped shining in several places. I need crumbs, Lucas. I need the smallest crumbs, I said with great precision. Mother. She stopped. Not all the way. The chaos never leaves her entirely. But for half a second, exactly half a second, the other version of my mother surfaced. The one I have seen 4 times in my life. The one who broke her hand on a pillar and finished her sentence. The one who pressed my wrist down in the nursery and said, "Not today, my love." The one who has been, I understood in that half second, carrying something about me for a very long time, without ever once asking me to carry it back. Lucas, she said quietly, in a voice that did not belong to the woman 3 seconds ago. Someone is moving on the old compact. They just moved. Do not come home. Keep going. Keep him with you. Tell him nothing yet. I will handle my end. I stopped breathing. I love you, she said. Then without any transition at all. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Good luck, darling. I believe in you. Please kiss the hero, or don't I leave it to you. Good night. The mirror went dark. I stood in the hallway. The woman who taught me to lie gracefully had just asked me to keep lying to the one person I did not want to lie to. I loved her. I resented her. These are often the same thing with my mother. I turned around. Shushu was sitting in the corridor. Already there. Had always been there. Shushu's arrival is not a moment I will ever successfully observe. Shushu simply exists somewhere, and then has always been there. And you were the one not paying attention. Said Shushu. Cat, I said. If you speak of this to him, I will have you bathed, and I mean it this time. Shushu blinked once, slowly, in the manner of someone receiving a threat they have placed directly into the bin. And then something shifted in those gold eyes. Something that was not the lecture face and not the judgment face. Something older than both. Something from whatever Shushu actually was before this form, before this manner, before the thousands of years of dry commentary on human failure. Shushu went still. Alert. The way very old things go alert when something they have been watching for has started moving. And then the necklace at my throat went red. Not warm. Not a flicker. Red. The deep red of the emergency seal my mother had pressed into the pendant the morning I left the palace. The seal she had built into every piece of jewelry I have worn since I was 14. The seal that had never, in 9 years of continuous wear, been anything other than cold and dark and dormant against my skin. Red. Every thought in my head stopped. Across the hallway, Shushu made a sound I had never heard Shushu make. Not him, not the lecture. Something that came from further back than language. From whatever Shushu had been before the cat, before this manner, before the long-running commentary on everything. Ears flat, golden eyes fixed on a point past the wall, past the village, past everything, between here and home. Our eyes met. The palace, Shushu said. That was all. I was already moving. Down the hall, fist on his door. The knock I had been standing outside this door refusing to make for 6 weeks arrived now, hard, without ceremony, at 3 in the morning. Ren. I did not wait. Get up. We ride. A thud from inside. A pause. Then a sequence of words in a language I do not speak, in the tone he uses when he has been woken without enough context, and is holding his patience together with both hands. Then the boots are being located under protest. Behind me the hallway came alive. Atlas first, quiet and immediate. The way large things move when they have already decided. Then Ordi, already dressed, which surprised no one. Then Law stood upright, faintly annoyed, as if he had not yet determined whether the emergency warranted his full cooperation. The necklace was still red. My mother had said I will handle my end. I did not know what was on her end. I did not know what was moving or how far it had gotten. I knew the necklace had not been read in 9 years. I knew we needed to move. I had, as I had learned to accept over the last 6 weeks of this, approximately 90 seconds to have feelings about any of it. Ren's door opened, hair wrecked, coat half on. One boot is unlaced, holding his notebook. Because, of course. Because when the Crown Prince knocked on his door at 3 in the morning with a red emergency seal and no explanation, the first thing he reached for was the notebook because he had thought something was wrong and he should have documentation because he is exactly like that. I have watched him be exactly like that for 6 weeks. I did not finish that thought. I looked at him instead. He looked at my face. He looked at the necklace. He looked at Shushu, who was already moving at the end of the hall. He did not ask what happened. He did not ask where we were going. He looked at me with those eyes that see a lot more than they should and said in a calm, even voice, "How bad?" "I don't know," I said. It was the most honest thing I had said out loud in 6 weeks. Ren nodded. He laced his boot. He stood up straight. He said, "Then we move." We moved. He fell into step beside me in the dark hallway. And the thing in my chest, the screaming thing, the tired thing, the thing that had been watching this man for 6 weeks and was running out of words for it, went quiet. I was going to have to tell him. Soon. Not tonight, but soon.